Thanks again, everyone. I see we have 30 participants in this track, so great. We have short talks in this track, so 2 talks, 20 minutes and 5 minutes a break. So we can start, and please welcome Matteo, and the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. So hi guys, thank you for attending first of all this session. As first things, I would like to thank the organizer, for their effort to organize this virtual conference, giving us the opportunity to connect even during these special times. So I am Matteo. I am a senior manager in software engineering. I have worked for a couple of companies all over the world in the past 10 years, and since January 2019, I started working for Booking.com. As a disclaimer, I want to say that in this presentation, I will talk about my personal approach toward leadership and management. So it doesn't reflect the company standards, and it is not something that I'm advertising on behalf of Booking.com. This is something that I've done before joining Booking. I'm doing even at Booking, but it's my way of working. This session is a knowledge sharing session on basically the cultural transformations that we had within my organization in 2019 and how it played a role during the work from home time. It's supposed to be a high-level session, so if you want to go deeper in the topics, please reach me out offline after this talk. I will be connected on the Wova app today, tomorrow, or anytime that you want. In any case, you can reach me out through LinkedIn. And same for Q&A. If we have no times for that, please drop your Q&As in the app. I will assure you that I will follow up with all of you offline. All right. So the first thing I would like to cover is about tribal leadership. The first time I heard about tribal leadership was when I was reading a book of Phil Jackson. The ones amongst you that follow basketball or the ones that have watched on Netflix The Last Dance, probably they know who he is. Phil Jackson is the most winning coach in the history of professional basketball in the United States, so the NBA. And by reading his book, I was really captured by how he applied some of the tribal leadership notions to transform basically losing teams formed by high-performing individuals in winning teams, still with high-performing individuals, but having a clear collective entity. Tribal leadership in general is a concept studied by Dave Logan, so it's not coming from Phil Jackson. Dave Logan is a professor at the University of Southern California. And if you're interested on this topic, I really recommend you to buy his book. It's really, really great. On tribal leadership, Logan is basically saying that our society is divided into tribes. And the maturity of a tribe is going through 5 different stages. And we can see this if we observe the society in many places. Those are the 5 stages of tribal leadership. Stage 1 is life sucks in general. So in this stage, we usually can find alienated people, quite hostile. I would say that I've never seen anyone being at this stage in a professional environment if in more than 10 years of experience, but I think it's worth to call it out what it is. Stage 2, it is my life sucks. That's how Logan defined it. This includes members who are passively antagonistic, sarcastic, and usually resistant to new management activities or initiatives. Then you have stage 3, which is I am great, but you are not. In this stage, you have people that are highly competitive, folks that want to outwork and outthink their competitors. So-called lone warriors, those are people that their really interest is to win to compete and to show that they are the best and the brightest. In stage 4, we move from I am great and you are not to we are great as a collective entity. So in this stage, we have tribe members that are excited to work together for the benefit of the company. Stage 5 is, the life is great stage, where you have members that are using their potential to make global impact, basically. Logan is giving us as well a percentage on how many tribes we can expect at each stage in the society. So you can see that the stage 3, the I am great stage, is the one having the higher representation. Life's great and life sucks are quite a minority, although the my life sucks is having quite a high number in my opinion. According to Logan, high-performing tribes are the ones that start at stage 4. This is because collective greatness is prevailing on the individual one. So if you think like a team with very high-performing people, but having pretty bad behaviors given to their aggressive competitiveness, you may think and you may see that dynamics within the team are quite disruptive. So you can be performant at one stage, but it's really, really hard to have, almost basically impossible, to have a long-term sustainable high performance within the team. Another point that Logan clarified is that tribes can move up only one stage at a time. So you cannot jump from my life sucks to we are great. You must go through the I am great state in between. And then what is making a tribe more effective, given to Logan studies, is its culture. So this concept for me has been very fascinating since I was reading about that. So I started thinking then how I can apply some of the tribal leadership concepts to my organization. Specifically, what would have been the culture that we should have had in my org to reach at least stage 4. So I started focusing on defining something that would have facilitated, how people transition from stage 2 or 3 to stage 4 or 5, and then to 4 or even 5, if it was possible, in a repetitive and sustainable way. That was my goal. So starting thinking about that, the first point that I identified was to get the people that I have in my organization more involved. Why? So I think, and we heard this many times, that people are, with no doubt, the best asset that a company has. So, if you develop them, if you nourish them, if you let them feel important and you develop their skills, they can accomplish anything they want. So I thought, that having a people-centric culture would have been a pretty solid idea to explore if I wanted to have a more productive environment. So going in that direction, the first step that I took was to have all the people in my organization being part of the decision-making process. Why? Because when people are part of the decision-making process, they feel that their opinion is valued. And at the same time, their feeling of belonging is gradually increasing. So in this way, I started mitigating individualism. That is, the point about individualism is the most important one about stage 3. So my hope was to start preparing the ground for a transition from stage 3 to stage 4. And the second step that I took, always in the people-centric approach, was even to explain to people the importance of embracing change. This is important because change is usually really hard for people. It requires to break habits. At the same time, in an agile environment, changes is what we face every day. You know, we have to deal with a lot of uncertainty. We have to adjust our product backlog, our requirements, our timelines on daily basis usually. And then last but not least, you know, continuous improvement requires change, because you basically want to analyze what is not working well and make changes there. And similarly, innovation. So, you know, if you are sticking to old habit and what you have, it will be very hard to innovate. So having a mindset more open to change is something that was super important, and coping well with change is key to improve efficiency and to keep the productivity high. So if we look at this graph, we see the different state of feelings over time that people have every time that there is a change. So shock, denial, frustration, depression, and so on. By involving people in the decision-making process, the idea was to shorten the duration of the phases going from shock to depression. This is because the longer is the duration of these phases, the less productive is going to be your team. So with this approach, the idea was to make it shorter. How did it work? The time frame was indeed shorter. At the same time, we still had the valley of despair. So where you have fear, anger, resistance, and doubt. I didn't like very much this thing, to be honest. So despite I'm shortening the time, if I still have this valley of despair, you know, I have an issue. This is because if you have people that are at stage 2 and transitioning to stage 3, you risk to lose them and start from scratch, having people in the stage 2. And you can still as well have people that are in stage 3 going back to stage 2. And this is something that you don't want. So I understood then that I should have complemented a people-centric approach with a set of values as well. No? Values for us are non-negotiable principles that everybody's committed to. And when defining our values with my organization, we followed a simple and pragmatic approach that was complementing the people-centric vision. So those are the 3 values that we are committed to: accountability, flexibility, and transparency. We value accountability because it keeps us down to earth, I would say. So what I mean is that at the end of the day, we are here to deliver value to our customer, and we should be accountable of what we produce, how we produce it, and by when. So, you know, we want to have a people-centric culture, but at the same time, we want to have people very much accountable for what they do, for what they produce. Flexibility, it helps us to have our state of mind at its best, even in challenging situations. So imagine, for instance, that you are a single parent and your kid is suddenly sick. Knowing that you have the flexibility to work from home, for instance, during these circumstances, is quite a relief, because you don't go over the stress like to filling all the boxes together, communicating to your manager. You might need some time. The manager is not really happy with that. The team doesn't accept this too. We want you to have an environment that is promoting this thing, a flexible environment. By valuing flexibility, I've seen that I got a higher commitment from the teams in general, and I started seeing people lifting from stage 2, my life sucks, for instance, due to personal circumstances, to stage 3. This was quite an important point for this transition. And the last value, transparency, is important because first, through transparency, for instance, transparency of emotions, people are more prone to show their vulnerabilities to other team members, and this is building trust. And second, a higher transparency is providing more context and inputs for the decision-making process. This value has been very useful for us during change management. So if we go back to the change management graph, something that we have noticed is that increasing the transparency by over-communicating the reason of changes, we were able to flatten the valley of despair. So we shorten the phases through shock, denial, frustration, and depression by involving people in the decision-making process. But like that, if we have a flat valley of despair, so we are removing from the picture fear, anger, resistance, and doubt. This is important because it is considerably increasing the mental well-being of people. And this is again something that is limiting the my life sucks cases. So you want to make sure that you have kind of a barrier that is not letting people going back to the previous stage of the transformational journey. And the last point that we identified was that I want to have a culture with best-in-class execution. Why? People at stage 3 usually are individuals with a tendency of overworking to overachieve. Their execution bar is really high. So if I want to have higher chances to succeed, let's say, from moving to stage 3 to stage 4, I thought that it was logical to have a high execution bar still for everybody. How did we achieve best-in-class execution? Two basic concepts, self-discipline and teamwork. Self-discipline helped us to stay focused on reaching our goals and give us the motivation to stick with difficult tasks to overcome obstacles. Moreover, when team members are seeing that you have a high level of self-discipline, they start relying much more on you. So you are gradually building up your trust, and your input and expertise is getting valued much more than before. And teamwork is important because it's the core of the stage 4, so a collective identity. So usually I like to remind people how the strength of the team is in each individual member. So in other words, a team is as strong as their weakest member. That's it. At the same time, the strength of each team member is the team. That means that we will be able to overcome difficulties if we stick together and if everyone is going to the same direction. So that was, in a nutshell, the transformational journey that we did in 2019. So to summarize, we ended up with a bottom-up driven culture based on transparency, flexibility, and best-in-class execution. And then we had COVID-19 that came. So how much did we have to change, for instance, of the culture that I just described? If I look at what we have done so far, we didn't change anything. So we just implemented a couple of practices to emphasize on our values while being at home, and that's it. So for us, the new normal has been like working in the good old times, let's say in 2019. Of course, we are lacking, personal interaction, chit chat during coffee time and so on. But at the same time, the core of our culture is still there. And we had a pretty easy transition from what we were doing to what we are doing today. When I look at the practices that we implemented on our values, so on the accountability part, we emphasize how high accountability will keep the productivity high. So the agreements that we had were still on the self-discipline, and at the same time making sure that we are holding ourselves accountable for what we do while working from home. So to be very clear, saying it in a different way, a practice that we do, we set goals every 6 months, and we do a quarterly review. If we work from the office, if we work from home, if we work from the beach, it doesn't matter. The expectation for us is to still deliver what we have agreed with the highest quality that we can provide. So making sure that everybody is aware of that and we remove this as a potential excuse on the plate, it's super important, and at the same time, it's keeping the team focused and accountable. On the flexibility, we acknowledge very transparently that having a working shift from 9 to 6 p.m. while working from home is unrealistic for everyone. I mean, once you are at home, you have different challenges. You may have kids, you may have pets, you may have the delivery, you may have outages with your internet connections, and so on. So what we agreed was definitely to make sure that the teams are aware of our schedule, potentially ahead of time. So if we need to shift some working hours, let's make sure that the team is aware of that. And on the other side, it is wise that we identify individually the time slots during the day where we can boost our productivity. As an example, if you have a kid at home and you need to spend the afternoon playing with your kid because you have no other options, be transparent with your team. Say, from 2 p.m. till 6 p.m., I'm not around because I'm doing this. I will compensate from 8 p.m. till 11 p.m. when my kid is at home, at sleeping, sorry. So you are there, you have plenty of time to boost your productivity. Say this very transparently, clear and loud to everybody. And this is leading even to the transparency that in this case is very much connected to the flexibility point. Transparency here is, again, around over-communication and using many channels to convey your message. This is because it's very easy to interpret situation and to create confusion. You want to make sure that this is not happening. So be transparent, avoid confusion, over-communicate your schedule and your errands to the team. And that's basically what we've done. Plus, we implemented a couple of other points, like, remoting meetings should have been always on video. This is because we want to try to keep the professionalism high. I mean, we don't have a dress code. At the same time, we think that showing up on meeting in pajamas may be a little bit too much. Then, during meetings, do your best to limit distractions. Don't cook your lunch while you are in a meeting. Don't use your washing machine while you are in a meeting. Stay focused on the meeting agenda so that everybody is productive during the meeting. Remember that everyone should have a chance to express their point of view. This is important because during meetings, you don't see the body language of other people. So, you don't want to dominate the meeting. You want to make sure that everybody has the chance to express their point of view. Last but not least, be mindful of ergonomics. So don't sit on your couch 8 hours a day. Make sure that you have a good seat, a good chair, and a good working station. And be respectful of each other's time. So dial in on time during meetings. With that, and with the culture that we had so far, we have been able to have quite an exciting journey in the whole 2020. We went through a reorganization. We went through changing objectives. We went through embracing new projects. And we have been able to deliver everything, retaining as well all the people that we had in organization when I joined. So nobody left where we are today, which is quite exciting, I have to say. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. If there is some Q&A, we can go over this if we have time. Otherwise, as I said, I will follow up with you offline. If you want to leave me a feedback on the presentation, if you enjoyed it, if didn't add a lot of value, please feel free to do so. It will be very much appreciated from my side.